told everyone the house was finally his. Not quietly, not carefully. He told them like a man announcing a victory he believed no one could undo. I heard it through the thin wall between the hallway and the kitchen. His voice on speakerphone, confident, relaxed, already rewriting history. Yeah, divorce is done. Judge signed. I got the house. She'll be out soon. He laughed after that. A short, satisfied sound. Someone on the other end congratulated him. Another voice said, "About time." I stood at the counter with my hands resting on the marble, a glass of water untouched beside me. The late afternoon light spilling across the floor like nothing in my life had just shifted. I didn't interrupt him. I didn't correct him. I didn't make a sound, because confidence built on a mistake is fragile. And he had just made one. My name is Lauren Whitmore. I was 41 when this happened. I work in risk management for a regional financial institution. It's not a job people brag about at dinner parties. No glamour, no applause. Just exposure analysis, documentation, and consequences. The kind of work that trains you to listen for what people don't say. Ryan ended the call and walked into the kitchen like a man who believed the future had already agreed with him. "There you are," he said lightly. "We should talk logistics." "Logistics for what?" I asked. "For you moving out," he replied. "I told my cousin he could stay here for a bit. 2 weeks max." 2 weeks. He said it like generosity. I looked at him calmly. "Who told you the house is yours?" Ryan frowned, annoyed already. "Lauren, don't start. The settlement was clear. You took the cash. I took the property." "That was the summary," I said. He rolled his eyes. "Don't play word games." "Did you read the addendum?" I asked. The question landed softly, too softly for him to react the way he should have. "What addendum?" he said. There it was. Not anger, not denial, confusion. I set the glass down gently. "You didn't read it." Ryan laughed once, sharp and dismissive. "I read enough. My lawyer explained everything." I met his eyes. "Call him." "Why?" "Because before you invite anyone else into this house," I said evenly, "you should understand what you actually own." The smile slid off his face slowly. "Are you threatening me?" "No," I said. "I'm warning you." He shook his head and walked out of the room like the conversation bored him. But that night, he posted a photo of the house at sunset, a caption that said everything he wanted the world to believe. "New chapter, finally mine." The comments poured in. "Congratulations, you deserve it. Time to move on." I didn't comment. I didn't react. Because the clause doesn't work if you panic. It works if you wait. The next morning, a black SUV pulled into the driveway. Ryan's cousin stepped out with a box already in his hands. Confident, casual, like he'd done this before. Ryan opened the door wide. "Come on in." That's when I stepped forward. "No." Both of them froze. Ryan turned sharply. "Lauren, don't do this." "I'm not doing anything," I said. "He's not coming in." His cousin shifted awkwardly. Maybe you guys need a minute." Ryan's voice dropped. "The house is mine." I nodded. "Not the way you think." He stared at me like I was embarrassing him on purpose. "You need to stop." "Call your attorney," I said again. "Put him on speaker." He scoffed, then dialed anyway, irritated enough to want to prove me wrong. The phone rang. "Benson Legal," a voice answered. Ryan straightened. "Mark, quick question. Lauren's claiming there's an issue with the house." There was a pause, a long one. "What kind of issue?" Mark asked. "She says I don't fully own it." Another pause. "Ryan," Mark said slowly, "where are you right now?" "At the house," Ryan replied. "My house. Mark exhaled. Is Lauren there? Yes. Ryan's confidence wavered, just slightly. Ryan, Mark said carefully, you need to listen. The property was transferred conditionally. Ryan's face drained. Conditionally? How? Subject to the protective occupancy clause, Mark replied. We reviewed it. Ryan snapped, No, we didn't. Yes, Mark said firmly. We did. You acknowledged it. The cousin set the box down. What does that mean? Ryan asked. It means, Mark continued, you are prohibited from displacing Lauren for the defined protection period. Any attempt to do so triggers review and potential suspension of your interest. Suspension. The word hung there. Ryan turned slowly toward me. What did you do? I met his gaze. I planned. He hung up without saying goodbye. His cousin backed toward the door. I'm gonna head out. Ryan didn't stop him. When the door closed, Ryan exploded. You manipulated the settlement. No, I said calmly. You ignored it. He paced like an animal that had just hit the edge of an invisible fence. This was supposed to be clean. It is clean, I replied. That's why it holds. That afternoon, the messages started. His sister, his mother, friends we shared. I became difficult, vindictive, refusing to move on. Then came the letter, formal, aggressive, immediate possession demanded. Ryan slid it across the table. I'm filing. I looked at the date. You already triggered the clause. He froze. The court date came faster than he expected. He arrived confident again, suit pressed, smile rehearsed. His attorney argued obstruction, painted me as petty, emotional, uncooperative. Then my attorney stood and read the clause out loud, word for word. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Whitmore, did you read this? Ryan opened his mouth, closed it. I trusted counsel, he said weakly. That's not an answer, the judge replied. Motion denied, compliance review ordered. That was when the real problem surfaced. The bank contacted him, then me. Questions about the refinance, the equity withdrawal, the account the money went into. Ryan's face changed when he realized the clause didn't just protect occupancy. It froze leverage. Weeks passed. Investigations widened. Ryan stopped posting. Then one night, he texted me. You knew this would happen. I replied once. I knew you wouldn't read. The house didn't protect me. The clause did. Because the clause wasn't about the house. It was about behavior. And when everything finally settled, when the noise faded, when the street was quiet again, I walked through the house slowly. Not as someone defending space, as someone who understood power. Ryan thought ownership was about winning. He forgot it's about understanding what you sign. And the one clause he skipped cost him everything he thought he'd already won. Ryan didn't come back that night. He left like a man who'd just watched the floor shift under him, and he needed a place to stand where I couldn't see the fear in his face. But his family didn't leave. They simply changed tactics. The next morning, my phone started buzzing before sunrise. Not from Ryan. He knew better than to put his voice on record again so soon. From Linda. From his sister, Paige. From numbers I didn't recognize that turned out to be cousins, aunts, family friends, people who had never spoken to me unless they needed something, and suddenly had a lot to say about what I deserved. Lauren, this isn't a good look. You're embarrassing, Ryan. Just move out and stop being bitter. Bitter. That word is always the first weapon, because if they can frame you as emotional, they don't have to deal with facts. I didn't reply. Silence isn't passive when silence is intentional. By noon, there were posts online, not from Ryan's account. He was careful. From Paige, a photo of a coffee mug on a kitchen counter, generic enough to look like anyone's home, with a caption designed to invite strangers to judge. Watching someone try to steal what isn't theirs is wild. Comments piled in quickly. People love picking sides when they don't have to pay for it. Some women are so greedy. Kick her out. Hope he takes her to court. I saw it once, then closed the app. Because I knew what they were doing. They weren't trying to convince me. They were trying to pressure me through everyone else. And it would have worked on the version of me I used to be. The version who would rather swallow glass than be disliked. But the divorce had already taught me something brutal. If people are going to misunderstand you anyway, you might as well be safe while they do it. On Tuesday, Ryan's mother came to my street. I didn't see her at first. I found out because my neighbor, Mrs. Archer, knocked on my door around 3 p.m. She was in her late 60s, short, tidy, the kind of woman who notices everything and pretends she doesn't. When she smiled, it was polite, but uncertain. "Lauren," she said quietly, "there's a woman outside telling people you're refusing to leave your husband's house." I didn't blink. "Linda?" Mrs. Archer hesitated. "She asked me if I'd seen you taking things out at night. She said the sheriff's coming. She said you're unstable. Unstable." They escalated fast. I kept my voice calm. "Thank you for telling me." Mrs. Archer studied my face, trying to decide if I looked unstable. I held her gaze. "I'm okay," I said softly, "and she's lying." Mrs. Archer nodded slowly, then leaned in a fraction. "I don't like people stirring trouble on this street," she said. "If she comes back, I'll call you." I felt something loosen in my chest. Not relief exactly, but something close. Community is a quiet form of armor. Linda thought she could turn my street into a courtroom. She didn't realize my street already had a judge and a memory. That night, my work phone rang. Not my personal cell. My work phone. I stared at the caller ID and felt my stomach tighten. Internal HR. I answered anyway. "Lauren," the HR director said carefully, "do you have a moment?" That tone. The one they use when they're trying to sound neutral, but the air already changed. "Yes," I said. "We've received an inquiry from a financial institution verifying employment. And we also received an anonymous message alleging you're involved in a dispute related to fraud." The word landed like ice. My grip tightened on the phone, but my voice stayed steady. "I'm involved in a divorce-related legal dispute," I said. "My attorney is handling it." There was a pause. The HR director continued. "Because your role touches risk management. We need to ensure there's no conflict or reputational exposure." Reputational exposure. The polite phrase for, "If this gets messy, we may have to protect the company from you." "I understand," I said. "Please provide your attorney's contact information," she said. "And please, document everything." I almost laughed at the irony. I built my career on documentation. "Of course," I replied. After I hung up, I stood in my kitchen and let the silence settle. This was the part Ryan's family didn't understand. They thought dragging my job into it would scare me into folding. They didn't realize my job made me dangerous because I know how systems work. I know what triggers an investigation. I know what makes institutions pay attention. And most importantly, I know what happens when you try to intimidate someone who is trained to keep receipts. That evening, I called my attorney, Maya Patel, and told her everything. The posts, the neighbor, the HR call. Maya listened without interrupting. Then she said, calm and exact, "Lauren, they're trying to create noise. We're going to build a clean timeline that cuts through it. A clean timeline. In court, emotion is story, but dates are truth." The next day, we sat in Maya's office, 2 chairs, 1 laptop, a stack of paper growing taller as we worked. We laid out the divorce timeline, the settlement, the addendum, the protective clause, Ryan's attempt to move someone in, the demand letter, the motion, the denial. And then we layered on what they didn't expect, the bank inquiry. Because the bank inquiry wasn't just a side problem, it was the real reason Ryan wanted the house. Maya slid a refinance statement toward me and tapped the numbers. "Do you recognize this?" she asked. My breath caught. Cash out proceeds, $189,700. I stared at it, my mind trying to align that figure with the life I remembered living. Ryan had told me the refinance was just a better rate. No cash out, no payout, no big changes. But the paper didn't lie. "Where did it go?" I whispered. Maya's eyes stayed on mine. "That's what Ryan is trying to keep buried," she said. "And that's why he's acting like the house is his lifeline." My pulse thudded in my ears, because suddenly the pieces clicked. The late night work calls, the sudden mood swings, the fights over tiny expenses, the way he always seemed frantic right before payday, then calm right after. He wasn't just reckless. He was hiding something that required money, fast. And now, after the divorce, he didn't have my salary attached to his life anymore. He didn't have my stability to lean on. So he needed the house. He needed equity. He needed collateral. He needed me to be the foundation again, without getting any say in the structure. Maya's voice softened slightly. "Lauren, did you ever suspect he was gambling?" I stared down at the paper. Not gambling, not at a casino, but something else. Something quieter and more corrosive, online, hidden behind screens, a habit that doesn't leave the smell of smoke on your clothes. It leaves gaps in your bank account. "I suspected something," I said. "I didn't have proof." Maya nodded. "We'll get proof." That Friday, Ryan texted me, a single sentence. "We need to talk. In person. Tonight." I didn't answer. He sent another. "You're messing with my life." That one made my jaw tighten, because in his mind, my refusal to rescue him was the crime. I ignored him again. 2 hours later, he showed up anyway. He didn't come to the door like last time. He waited at the edge of my driveway, leaning against his car under the streetlight, like a man trying to look calm while his world burned. I opened the door, but didn't step outside. "What do you want?" I asked. Ryan lifted his hands slightly. "I'm not here to fight." I stared at him. He exhaled and tried on a softer voice. The voice he used when he wanted me to stop asking questions. "The bank is calling," he said. "They're asking about the refinance. They're asking about transfers." My stomach tightened, but my face stayed still. "And?" I said. Ryan stepped closer, just one step, testing the boundary. "If you cooperate against me," he said shyly, "they'll come after you too. Your name's on the paperwork." There it was, the threat dressed as concern. I kept my voice low. "Don't threaten me." "I'm not threatening," he snapped, losing patience. Then he tried to recover. "I'm warning you, we're still connected in this." "No," I said softly. "We're not." Ryan's jaw clenched. "You don't understand what this could do." I looked at him through the door frame like he was a stranger. I understand exactly, I said. You took money out of our home and you're scared of where it went. His eyes flickered. Then anger surged, because anger is easier than shame. You went digging? He hissed. Yes, I said. He stared at me, breathing shallowly. Then his voice dropped lower. If you don't help me, he said, I'll make sure you get pulled down with me. There it was. Clean, clear, unmasked. I didn't flinch, because I'd already made my decision the moment HR called. I wasn't going to let him tie my future to his mistakes. I met his eyes and kept my voice quiet. If I go down, I said softly, I'm taking you with me. Ryan froze, for the first time in our entire marriage. He looked like he understood I wasn't afraid of him anymore. He stared at me like he was searching for the old version of me, the one who would soften, the one who would fix, the one who would apologize for his panic. He didn't find her. He found someone else. Someone who had learned, too late, but still in time, that love doesn't mean you volunteer to be collateral. Ryan backed away slowly, his face tight with rage and fear. Before he got into his car, he said, voice low, You think you're so smart. I didn't answer. He drove off, tires crunching against the curb, and the quiet that followed felt heavier than before. Not because I was scared, but because I knew what came next. When a person like Ryan loses the ability to control you privately, they try to destroy you publicly. The next week, the posts escalated. Paige posted a video, face lit dramatically, voice shaking as if she were the victim. Some people will do anything to destroy a man after divorce, even sabotage his finances. Sabotage. That word made my stomach turn, because the truth was the opposite. Ryan sabotaged himself. They just needed a villain who wasn't him. Then came the letter in the mail. A lawsuit. Not about the house. About defamation. Ryan claimed my false accusations had harmed him financially and professionally. He claimed I was coordinating with the lender to punish him. It was ridiculous, but lawsuits aren't always filed to win. They're filed to exhaust. Maya called me immediately after she received the same copy. They're trying to create a wall of noise, she said. I know, I replied. Good, she said, because now we do what you do best. What's that? I asked. Maya's voice was calm, almost gentle. We document, and we expand the scope. Expand the scope. That meant we weren't just defending the house anymore. We were going after the truth that Ryan was trying to bury under it. Maya filed a response that forced financial disclosure. Subpoenas for bank statements. Requests for transaction logs. And because my job title is what it is, I knew exactly which institutions would respond fastest to pressure. The bank moved quickly. They always do when their money is involved. A week later, Maya called me. I have the transfer trace, she said. My chest tightened. Where did it go? Maya paused, then said quietly, an entity called Blue Lantern Holdings. It sounded clean, professional, harmless, which is how these things always sound. It's a shell, Maya continued, and the account is linked to a payment processor connected to unlicensed online wagering and, she hesitated, and potentially money laundering. The room felt like it tilted. I sat down at the kitchen table, palms flat against the wood. Ryan, I whispered. Maya's voice softened. Lauren, listen. You didn't do this, but you can't protect him from it anymore. I closed my eyes. In my mind, I saw our living room. Ryan on the couch, late at night, with his phone, brightness turned down. His thumb moving fast, his jaw tight. Me asking, "What are you doing?" And him saying, too quickly, "Work, work." That lie had lived in my house for years, and now it was trying to take the house with it. Maya continued, steady. "The clause he forgot," she said, "wasn't just about occupancy. It included a financial compliance section." My eyes opened. "What do you mean?" "It means," she said carefully, "that if Ryan is under investigation related to the property, his access and interest can be restricted further." Restricted further. My heart hammered. Maya's voice stayed calm. "That clause was designed to prevent exactly this," she said. "A spouse trying to use the home as a shield or as collateral, while dragging the other spouse into the fallout." I stared at the table, because suddenly I saw it clearly. The clause wasn't just a lock on a door. It was a firewall. And Ryan had just thrown gasoline at it by trying to break in. The next court date came quietly, without fanfare, not an emergency motion, a compliance review hearing. That phrase sounds small, administrative, boring, but in legal language, compliance review is the moment your story stops being yours and becomes the system's. Ryan showed up looking different, still polished, but the confidence was thinner, strained at the edges. He wasn't smiling as much. He wasn't making eye contact with as many people. His attorney's posture was tighter. They knew. They knew the house was no longer the main problem. The judge reviewed the financial documents in silence for a long time. The courtroom was quiet enough that I could hear the soft rustle of paper. Then the judge looked up. "Mr. Whitmore," he said, voice even, "did you take proceeds from a refinance on this property?" Ryan's throat moved. "Yes." "Did you disclose to the lender the intended use of funds?" the judge asked. Ryan's attorney stood. "Your Honor." The judge raised a hand. "I'm asking him." Ryan's face flushed. "It was business." The judge didn't blink. "What business?" Ryan's jaw clenched. "Private." The judge's eyes narrowed slightly. "Private doesn't mean undisclosed." Maya stood, calm. "Your Honor," she said, "we have evidence the proceeds were routed through a payment processor, linked to unlicensed wagering and potential structured transfers." Ryan's attorney shifted, then tried to pivot. "This is beyond the scope of a divorce proceeding." The judge's voice cooled. "No," he said. "This is directly tied to the property and to exposure of both parties." He looked at Ryan again. "Mr. Whitmore," he said, "your actions have created financial risk. I am ordering further restrictions on your access to any equity associated with this property pending investigation. Any attempts to encumber, sell, or leverage this home will be prohibited." Ryan blinked as if he hadn't understood. Then his face tightened, because he understood perfectly. The house wasn't his safety net anymore. It was evidence. When the hearing ended, Ryan tried to approach me in the hallway, not yelling, not charming, desperate. "Lauren," he whispered, "please." I stopped walking and looked at him. For a second, I saw the man I married, the man who could be sweet, the man who could laugh, the man who could hold my hand and make me believe we were building something together. Then I saw the man who threatened to drag me down with him. And the second man erased the first. "You forgot one clause," I said softly. Ryan's eyes flashed with pain and rage. "It wasn't a trick," I continued. "It was a boundary." He swallowed. "You're ruining me." I met his eyes, voice low. "No, Ryan, I'm refusing to be ruined with you." He stared at me like he couldn't decide whether to hate me or beg. Then he turned away sharply and walked down the corridor with his shoulders tight, like someone holding in a collapse. And I understood something that made my skin go cold. This still wasn't the end. Because when you corner someone who's been living on borrowed stability, they don't always surrender. Sometimes they do something reckless. And Ryan was running out of room to be careful. Ryan didn't disappear after that hearing. He unraveled, slowly at first, then all at once. The calls from his attorney became shorter, sharper, less confident. His family went quiet online, like someone had finally told them to stop creating evidence. Paige deleted her last video without explanation. Linda stopped driving past my house. That kind of silence isn't peace, it's calculation. 3 days later, my employer escalated the review. This time, it wasn't HR. It was legal. A calendar invite appeared with no subject line, just a time, a conference room, 2 names I recognized from risk oversight. I arrived early because that's what you do when your life is under a microscope. The room was glass-walled, clean, neutral. The kind of space designed to make people choose their words carefully. "Lauren," corporate counsel said after the door closed, "we need to ask you some formal questions." I nodded. "I'm ready." They weren't accusing. They were mapping exposure. "Were you aware of any misuse of refinance proceeds at the time you signed?" "No." "Did your ex-husband disclose any gambling or speculative activity?" "No." "Have you shared documents with external investigators?" "Yes, through counsel." They wrote everything down. Then one of them asked the question I'd been waiting for. "Has Mr. Whitmore ever threatened you in relation to this matter?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes," I said. "Directly." The room went quiet. "Can you document that?" counsel asked. "I already have," I replied. That was the moment I felt the ground shift again. Because when legal stops asking if and starts asking how well documented, they're no longer wondering whether you're the problem. They're preparing for what comes next. When the meeting ended, the senior counsel looked at me for a long moment. "You did the right thing," she said quietly. "Continue to route everything through your attorney." I walked out of that building lighter than I'd gone in. Ryan's attempt to poison my credibility had failed. And now, the attention was fully on him. 2 nights later, my phone buzzed at 11:42 p.m. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It buzzed again, then again. Finally, a voicemail appeared. Ryan's voice, unsteady. "Lauren, please. You don't understand what they're doing. They froze my accounts. I can't access anything. I just need you to help me explain." I deleted the voicemail without finishing it, because explanations don't fix paper trails. The next morning, Maya called. "They've opened a formal investigation," she said. "Who?" I asked, though I already knew. "The lender," she replied, "and they've referred it, federal level." I closed my eyes, not because I was afraid, because it was over. Not the noise, not the drama, but the illusion. Ryan had spent years believing he could borrow against stability without ever paying it back. He thought the house was leverage. He didn't realize it was collateral, and collateral gets seized. The last time I saw him was not dramatic. No shouting, no confrontation. I was leaving a coffee shop near my office when I saw him sitting inside by the window. He looked smaller somehow, tired. The man who used to fill rooms now looked like he was trying not to take up space. He saw me and stood up too quickly, knocking his chair back. "Lauren," he said, stepping outside. "Just listen." I stopped. I didn't step closer. "What do you want?" I asked. His eyes were red, not crying, strained. "They're saying I could lose everything," he said. "The accounts, the business, even the house." I studied him. This was the first honest sentence he'd spoken in months. "You already lost the house," I said calmly. He swallowed. "I mean, everything else." I said nothing. He stepped closer, voice dropping. "If you testify, if you give them everything, they'll destroy me." I looked at him. Really looked. Not the man I married, the man standing in front of me. "You threatened me," I said quietly. "I was scared," he snapped, then immediately softened. "I didn't mean it like that." "You did," I replied. "That's the problem." He ran a hand through his hair. "Please, you can help. Just tell them you didn't know. Tell them it was my mistake, not malicious." I met his eyes. "I am telling them the truth," I said. "That's all I owe." His voice cracked. "You're doing this on purpose." I shook my head. "No, Ryan. I stopped protecting you." That landed harder than anything else I could have said. He stepped back like I'd struck him. "I loved you," he said. I didn't argue. "I loved the man I thought you were," I said, "but I'm not responsible for the one you became." A week later, the notice arrived. Ryan had been formally charged, not arrested, charged, financial misrepresentation, wire fraud, structuring, words that don't care how charming you are. The house was no longer mentioned in any filings, because it no longer mattered. It was secured, protected, untouchable. The clause he forgot didn't just block him from the door. It isolated me from the blast. Months passed. The investigation continued. Ryan's family went silent completely. Paige deleted her accounts. Linda moved out of state. No one came to my street anymore. No moving trucks. No threats. No notes taped to the door. One evening, I walked through the house with all the lights off. Just the glow from the city spilling in through the windows. I touched the wall near the staircase, the spot where we'd once argued about paint colors. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was finished. The house didn't feel like something I'd fought for anymore. It felt like something that had finally stopped fighting me. People think power is loud, that it announces itself, that it kicks in doors and wins arguments. They're wrong. Real power is quiet. It's the clause you don't brag about, the signature you don't rush, the boundary you set before anyone knows they need to cross it. Ryan thought the house was his after the divorce. He forgot one clause. And that single mistake didn't just cost him a property. It cost him the lie he'd been living on. I didn't take his house. I kept my life. And when everything settled, that was more than enough.